Hi everybody and welcome to the Kidney Coach YouTube channel. I am naturopath Fiona Chin, co-founder of Kidney Coach and Kaigenesis, a range of supplements designed for those diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. Whether you want to lower your creatinine or raise your eGFR, we might have a supplement for you. And I'm joined again today by one of my favourite guests, the beautiful, the wonderful Stephanie Modavis. Stephanie is part of the Kidney Coach team. She is a coach, a wellness coach, health coach, naturopath, yoga instructor, yogi, wisdom holder, and has her own amazing story's the wrong word, but amazing journey from going through chronic kidney disease as a result of an autoimmune disease herself to transplants and lots of dialysis later. Stephanie has navigated the traditional medicine arena very well, I would say, and has become a champion to empower others to know how to advocate for themselves and to get through the Western medicine model feeling more empowered and to show you what choices you actually have. So I'm joined again by Stephanie, and we always have these most amazing conversations that I love. So Stephanie, welcome. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you. I am delighted to be here. And as always, thank you for giving me a platform to share all of the wisdom and knowledge and good things and bad things that I've experienced over this literally more than half of my life year journey. So thank you so much, because I come with you with the whole story. And that is something that I find very hard pressed to do in the real world of medicine. So thank you for being able to contain the whole story of what it's like to have kidney disease, unfortunately go into it the way I did with needing transplants and dialysis, but also then doing this full circle that patients, can actually do if they have the right guidance and support and holistic care. So thank you so much, Fiona.
Of course, and it's nice that you do bring the full story. I think it's people get one side or the other, don't they? They either see, and it's the way social media, I think, and the way our society is at the moment, right? We either see one side, which is the dialysis and people didn't do very well, and it's which is the narrative of Western medicine, and then there's the other side where you see people where it looks like people like did this miraculous cure and blah blah blah, but what you don't see is all the hard work that went in between. And so I think these conversations are really important. So because I think to look at you, you're obviously a very attractive woman and very what's the word I'm looking for, intelligent, and there's another word that has completely escaped my brain, but it's that just real dedicated to being a competence, the word I'm looking for, a very competent woman. And so I think people could easily look at you and go, well, she had the luck fairy sprinkle all over you. And you and I know that's just, you worked darn hard to get where you are and to navigate what you did. And it wasn't always roses. There were a lot of days you were in the trenches just paddling to just stay above water. So I think it's really important to have these conversations. So yeah.
Thank you. I should, God really blessed me, and I should probably show up with a picture of what I looked like when I was sick, because I was in a wheelchair. I had no hair, total side effects from high doses of prednisone, the hump in the back of my neck, I looked like I was dying. And part of it is, I guess, my genetics, but part of it is what you just said, is that once I got through and got a transplant, which is a miraculous thing in and of itself, but the work didn't stop. That's when my real work actually began. And it's difficult because when you get run down to the point of being so entirely sick, it consumes your life and you can't work and you're in a wheelchair to get around, how do you bounce back from that? And so many people, like you said, in life in general right now, it's so polarized. There's so much stress. You can't go through anything nowadays without this political climate and the cultural polarizations affecting there's nobody that can escape it. So
No.
when you've got a chronic disease and then it's coupled with all of this extra stress coming in from our environment and the culture and politics, it's just like now more than ever, I've come to realize that there's nobody getting out of this anymore. We are moving into a climate where we have to work as a whole. There's just no if, ands, or buts about it. You can't escape it. You can't run to, Norway or Maine or to try to escape it, because no matter where you go, there it is. So for me to be able to share, and I do share a lot around tools to manage stress and things that you can couple with your illness experience, because if I were to go through my illness experience nowadays with how deeply polarized society and culture is, I'd be twice as stressed. I know that. So to share these tools, which oddly, the more I dive into this and the more I educate myself and the longer I go on my journey, I just can't believe how much of this is left out for patients. And so, really, it is up to the patients or the patients' families. And I know that that's how a lot of people find you, because they've told me in coaching sessions that they're desperate. And that's when somehow they come across you. So, if you're not your own advocate, or you have somebody that can be that advocate for you, it's just far too easy to fall into the stereotypical cultural narrative in the West around kidney care, and it's not good.
No,
So,
it's really
yeah,
not.
yeah. So, but the good news is, if you get hooked up with the right people, you can do it. So, I'm going to start with the presentation today. Tell me if you can see my screen.
Here you go.
Can you see it?
Not yet. Try again. I had to give you permission to share. I hadn't done that.
Okay. All right.
I have now. You can
Okay.
share.
Okay. Great. So, okay. So, again, I feel like a broken record sometimes, but I cannot stress the importance of learning how to navigate your stress when you're going through any sort of chronic illness and in life in general. This slideshow is for kidney patients, families, and even people who aren't kidney patients at this point. It's just for everybody. So I think we've gotten to that point. So, back in the day, when I was a young yogi and yoga teacher, I was really hopped up on a lot of the spiritual narrative at the time, which really has a lot to do with healing. And I started holding these workshops called Raise Your Vibration.
Oh,
Okay.
cool.
And this was about, I'd say, 10 to 15 years ago. And I think it's funny because if you're a part of a so called spiritual community, I think there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that's intuited, but then down the road, you find out that, oh my goodness, it starts to land and ground a little bit better. And then even science starts to catch on. And science starts to prove that which a lot of these people that maybe were in the woo woo field were starting to talk about. The language might be slightly different. So, what I tried to do is take one of my old workshops, which I called Raise Your Vibration, and I tried to couple it a little bit with some of the scientific evidence on some of these things, which I hope maybe you can go over a couple of slides with me if you would
Sure.
be willing to do that. So all right. So this is called Raise Your Vibration, amplifying your energy through electron connection.
Oh,
Okay.
I
So,
love this. This is where the rabbit hole I'm down at the moment. So fabulous.
I mean, we just have to connect these dots at this point.
Yeah.
We've come close enough that, the scientific community and the functional medicine community and the people that are in the spiritual community, we can all start to link these things together for probably a better line of care if we can communicate and get over our ego with the other fields. So, as you know, and you've mentioned, and I've discovered through myself, through my own scientific research on myself about my own disease, because nobody ever told me why I got an autoimmune disease. I know that I got kidney disease because of my autoimmune disease, but to this day, nobody ever told me why. And I know so many people with autoimmune issues who say, I don't know, nobody ever told me what I had. Or they just told me it was a mix of like 3 or 4 or 5 things, or it was environmental and, genetic and this and that and the other thing. And that's the basic line we get. And as of today, I just looked it up. The latest research is showing up to 150 autoimmune diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Now, come on, like we've gotten ridiculous. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Spaceballs back in the day. You
Oh,
ever see
wow. Yeah. Old
Spaceballs?
school. Yeah.
There's a scene in that where the one guy says to the other guy, they're driving in space in their RV, and he says, "Oh my gosh, we've gone plaid." And that's how I'm like, okay. like, this is so ridiculous. We've gone plaid. Like, what? 150 autoimmune disease that
Yep.
are kind of inextricably linked, but they're like subtly different. In fact, just today I was talking to a friend of mine who at one point told me he has kidney disease. He's waiting for his second kidney transplant. He's high PRA, the antibodies, so he's having a heck of a time.
Mm.
And he told me, "Oh, I think I have is it IgIA? IG what
IgA
is it?
nephropathy.
Yes, IgA nephropathy." And then today I said, "Alex," I said, what were you diagnosed with again?" And he said, "Oh, they told me I had antiphospholipid antibody syndrome." And I go, "Oh yeah, well that's what they told me when I had lupus." And I was like, the more I think about this, honestly, the more sad I get, because I think um we've lost the point a little bit. Like we're a little confused, and we're
Yeah.
doing our best to treat this intense symptomology, but we're just, you know, for the most part lacking this awareness of like what the heck upstream is going on. And the interesting thing too is that science and certain parts of technology and surgery especially are getting more advanced. So
Mhm.
people are living longer to figure out what's up, and they still are curious. I don't know that many people who come across this mysterious illness and then somehow recovered or got a transplant and didn't think what really happened to me, and am I at risk for whatever happened to me to happen again, even though I'm in this state of wellness, right? I guess that could be said for many diseases, but there's a growing curiosity over
Yeah.
what the heck is going on. Why are we getting sicker? Why
Mm.
is there a gazillion autoimmune diseases all of a sudden? And obviously there are things that are beyond all of our control, right? We're learning more about toxins, environmental toxins, just plastics and things that they're spraying, and all sorts of things going on in the body that we have to worry about. But one thing that we can control is ourselves and our own physical environment. And I'm
Mhm.
talking about from our thoughts to our relationships, to the people that we interact with, the professionals, the doctors. You actually have a lot more choice than you think. And I think that's one of my main messages about when you're diagnosed with a chronic illness, is that maybe you'll never get the exact reason why it happened. Maybe you will take a genetic test and you're like, "Oh, I have this gene mutation and this contributed to this and this contributed to this." And you can weave it all together for an answer, but still you're going to have to do your due diligence to try to navigate your environment in a healthy. You have to optimize what you can do, is what I'm trying to say, right?
Totally.
So I had to put in a little cool, funky, like esoteric picture. So everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. Okay. So I love that. And I see a little nuance in that where we have to have some forgiveness in that too. It's not always just this instant manifestation and you think it and it's going to come into reality. I know we've talked about this before with certain work around Joe Dispenza and things, is like sometimes there's other mysterious things going on that we're not meant to know. And that's
Yeah.
very much part of the feminine mystery, and a part of life is that, yes, you want to try to raise your energy and understand that everything is energy and do your best, but that doesn't mean you're going to live forever. So we still have to accept the hand we were given, and sometimes we don't understand the whole story. But that said, we are energetic beings. And that is really important. Like I said, knowing that we're energetic beings gives us a lot of opportunity to be able to have a lot of power in our situation, I think. So if anyone's watching who doesn't know me, real quick, I have 28 years experience in the kidney field. I'm a kidney thriver, not survivor, right? I
Mhm.
autoimmune, CKD, dialysis, 5 years, 2 kidney transplants on hemo and peritoneal dialysis. That top picture is me still smiling, even though it wasn't easy before my second kidney transplant. You can see in my chest, I had a little band-aid over what was a Tessio catheter that's going underneath my little tank top there. And as you can see down below, before that, I also was smiling. The girl in the middle with the gray shirt, and I was, you know, a yoga teacher, and we held a lot of workshops. And the point of me showing this is, before I got sick, I was smiling, and even during when I was sick, I found time to find hope and trust in my journey. That said, I did have moments where I was sad and I cried and I couldn't understand, and I definitely allowed my feelings to flow. But at the end of the day, I had this seed within me that really made me trust whatever was going to happen. And I think that uh, I'm trying to share that the fear didn't really take hold of me 100%. You know, like there was still something in me that knew for some reason, yeah, this sucks, but I'm going to try to look at this from a higher perspective and ride it out. And what's the worst case scenario? Right? I would always do this. What's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is I die. Oh, and guess what? I'm going to die at some point anyway. So if I can kind of make peace with that, I can kind of ride this journey and kind of surrender into it rather than fight what naturally is going to happen at some point in my life. So I think that was very much of a spiritual process for me, was understanding that I can fight this or I can just ride the journey and try to make it as positive as possible. So at, you know, the last few years, I've told you this and you know this about me, is I have an insatiable curiosity, which is good and bad, but I wanted to use the scientific method upon myself to try to figure out what happened to me, because being a 2-time kidney transplant recipient and having autoimmune doesn't mean that I can't have the same flare-ups and have that autoimmune cause and wreak havoc on the kidney transplant and my body again. So because I got no answers, I really did all I could to reverse engineer my process. And this is what I said, is that after I became physically healthy, then I started to really work on my mind and my emotions and seeing how I could reorganize my life to live as healthy as I possibly could. So, what are electrons and why do they matter? I can imagine that you might be getting a tiny bit excited at this point. I'm not sure. Okay. So you probably know more about me than this. Okay. If you want to jump in and explain any of this, you're more than welcome to take over. I just wrote some kind of basic definitions for our audience. Again, people may be watching this and say, I don't get this. How do I get better? I don't know why she's talking about electrons, but I'm trying to link together this critical importance of raising your vibration amongst your illness experience and actually scientifically kind of what's going on there and what happens when we have these electrons in the right balance. So do you want to say anything before I start?
Yeah, it's really interesting, the electron transport chain, which links back into mitochondrial health. That's why it's a big topic now, why we talk about mitochondria. The ATP, or the electron transport chain, happens inside mitochondria, which are the powerhouses of the cells, for want of a better word. And your ATP or your mitochondria are always inherited from your mother, and they can store ancestral trauma all on your matriarchal side, which is, I find this fascinating. You don't get any DNA from your father. It all comes from your mother as far as your mitochondrial health goes. And what is really super interesting is that every time ATP uses either glucose, generally glucose, to generate fuel, and it's got like the 4th chains and things like that. That's why we like coenzyme Q10 works in there and it improves it and blah, blah, blah. But, and I'm sure you're going to get to this, we now know things like sunlight improves the health of ATP. And then there's this thing called photon tunneling, which will bypass the whole process. And this is a rabbit hole I'm down, that if you can enhance photon tunneling, you have less pressure on the ATP transport chain, because every time you're moving electrons through the ATP transport chain, you actually do cause oxidative stress to a small degree. And then it's depending, you know, how well your body can mop that up. But if you photon tunnel, which bypasses this, you don't produce any oxidative stress. And the theory is that's how people become light beings, and these beings, so-called, that the yogis speak of, that live in the Himalaya forever, have, I suspect, this is my own rabbit hole that I've been down, that I suspect they know how to photon tunnel and bypass this sort of stuff. And you'll meet people where they and I'm sure you're going to talk to this too, you can feel people that have a better working ATP transport chain or are maybe using more photon tunneling, which diminishes or decreases your your body's need to rely on ATP as much as it does. They have a higher energy. Dogs and animals will be drawn to them. Like babies will want to go towards them. You'll be around them and you'll feel energized because those people are releasing light, which is what happens when you photon tunnel and things like that. So you can feel those people, and then you can feel the people that drain you, which generally they have very low working ATP. And it is that whole electron thing that you're talking about is as sensitive as that. If you're around people that drain you, you can go down to like the whole biochemical physics. That person probably has a really crappy ATP pathway and they're draining, hence they may actually draw electrons off you, meaning they actually draw energy from being in your field, versus people who give you energy and they're generally high energy and this pathway works really effectively, or they're got really good photon tunneling, so their body naturally emits a lot of photons. But there's a lot of biohacks. The biohacking world loves this sort of thing. This is what they're working on to really optimize. But that every cell radiates this energy that you can measure. You know, I think the human body can like power an entire house, can't it? Or in fact, even more than that. So yeah, they're my interesting takes on this whole sort of electron transport chain. But this is why mitochondria become so important in all our chronic diseases, autoimmune and especially kidney disease. That's why we look to optimize them, because they are the guys that do this electron transport chain.
I love all this so much. Yes. Being a yogi, I do know a thing or two about the light body. Maybe that'll be next presentation. We don't want to go too far, but exactly. I love what you're saying, and I couldn't agree with everything you're saying more. And I find it so interesting to, I mean, I studied biology a little bit in college, but I don't remember the Krebs cycle. I don't remember a lot of this, but I find it interesting that we use a lot of similar terminology of the actual cell and the body in terms of languaging around awakening, right? It's like, oh, we got to get out of the matrix, which you see like matrix here. We talk about, you know, I know there are things that refer to things like in the intracellular, like inside and extracellular, this kind of, it's
Intracellular matrix, yeah.
somehow, yeah, it's almost like kind of collapsing in on itself. So it's very exciting to come into this awareness. But yeah, so Fiona said everything wonderfully about this. So what I learned was that my body thrived when my energy stores were optimized. Electrons are the spark of life, critical for metabolic health and kidney function. And electron imbalances can exacerbate chronic conditions like kidney disease. So this was something that the first transplant I went through, I really just had to feel it and go through all of the, I would say, normal processes and feelings of being in that situation. But because I got the gift of having to go through it twice, I was able to really analyze and optimize. And I was like a scientist the entire second time. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I was just writing and researching, and I really studied myself. And I was like, wow, it's incredible how I'm around this person and I feel like a million bucks, and I'm around this person and I feel like negative $1 million. I think that's my body's way of telling me something, and I need to listen to these subtle cues of how I feel in every situation and be really mindful about where I place myself. So,
Very true.
yeah. Yeah, the energy. Yeah, I think we have a major energy crisis in modern life. I mean, even in like the movie Matrix, like you hear, I think it's Morpheus talking about like we are a battery. Like you are a battery. And I think if you can really start to look at yourself that way and understand that you have so much energy in your tank each day, and there's things you can do to optimize it, there's things that you can do that are depleting it, and you start to become aware of what's depleting your energy reserves or like lowering the gas in your tank, you have more control over how you feel. And I just sadly think that so many of us have gone without this wisdom or knowledge, or maybe not intuitively listening to the body as much. And we unconsciously sabotage our journey a little bit because we're not conscious to the choices or environments that we're in, and we feel more victim to the environment than we're in than to say, whoa, hold on, something doesn't feel right here, or this doctor doesn't feel right for me, I'm going to make a decision to change it. We're just not as proactive, I think, as we could because of whatever societal conditioning or what have you. So yeah, as we
Yes.
said earlier,
Sorry,
yeah.
I was going to say it's interesting. The scene where he takes Neo into the Matrix and they're walking down the street and he's talking to them and he says, "Are you listening or are you watching the woman in the red dress?" And that's life, right? Are you listening to your body and all your internal drivers, or are you completely distracted by the external world around you? And are you watching the woman in the red dress? It's that whole moment, if you really dive into it, like, it's a very profound scene. So I love it. So keep going. But what you were talking about reminded me of that.
Yeah, I have something to share with you. It's a Matrix trilogy kind of metaphorical breakdown. I think you'd really get into it. I'll share it with you
Awesome. I love it.
later. But that is true. I think that if you want to succeed and do as best as you can and feel as best in any situation that you're in as you can, I think you got to adopt the mentality of, okay, I might have been asleep, and how can I wake myself up? I think that's just, and it's not to be insulting, but it's a very clear differentiation when you do really truly kind of wake up and you look back and you, everybody I know, including myself, will say, wow, I was wickedly asleep and I thought that I was awake. So if you just can kind of adopt, like, maybe there's things I'm not seeing, maybe there's different ways that I'm not looking at, maybe I have to try to change my habits a little bit, and just kind of assume that we all could continuously wake up a little more, instead of not questioning it would be easier if you just kind of look for ways to wake up a little bit, which is, not always easy. But anyhow, modern stress, we know, depletes electrons because we've got chronic stress all over the place.
Hmm.
We've got poor diet, most of us, that lack electron-rich nutrients. There's EMFs and technology overuse all over the place. I mean, I'm very sensitive to this. I can feel like I'm getting radiated if I'm too much on my phone. Like, I get very electric. I get
Yeah.
very like I'm electric, or like I can feel it in my blood, in my body, that there's like radiation or electricity, or I'm too wired, and I can feel almost like inflammation. I'm very sensitive to that. So, and sadly, it's just like we keep getting pulled into more and more tech. It's hard to disconnect. And then some people have sedentary lifestyles and they're just very disconnected from life, love, and nature. So all of those things are not going to help. So as a transplant patient, I noticed really clearly how stress, processed and unhealthy food, and even my thoughts and my relationships truly drain my energy. Like, I really just started to take account. I was like, okay, when I eat crappy, it might feel good for a second, but I'm going to be bloated and feel awful tomorrow. Um, Being around people that were stressful, or if I were outgrowing environments, right? There came a time years ago where I outgrew going to the bars with my friends. I was like, just not really into this anymore. And I was being pulled to a more natural, nature-filled life. And if I had circles of people who weren't really into that, I was noticing that I had to kind of diminish time with certain people or end it completely and have new circles of friends. And that's a hard thing to do because culturally, you don't give up your childhood friend or, your family's blood. So you have to just make it work with people who are toxic to you. We're told these things and then we stay trapped in these mindsets that really are just not healthy for us. So these factors rob electrons, weakening cellular health and contributing to metabolic issues, and they risk my health. I could tell at some point it wasn't just, oh, I don't like this person, it's not good for me. Like, at some point it hit me, slapped me across the face. I was like, not only does this not feel good, but I'm harming myself. I'm actually physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally harming myself. And I have to stop.
Well, it's interesting, right? The adage that everyone says you become like the five people you hang around most actually comes down to this electron transfer part as well. If you've got a friend who is overweight, you are 75 to 80% more likely to become overweight. Isn't that crazy? And that's part of what you're talking about here. I just find that mind blowing. So the fact that you spoke about having to let people go, and how hard that is. If you're on a healing journey and you truly value your health and well-being, you have to, because of this is just giving a framework to what people say, that you become the people you hang around with, and that's because you're swapping electrons with them day in, day out. You know, you actually, to be healthy, one of the things I would say to anyone listening to this is find people that inspire you with their health, and go out of your way to hang around with those people. You will get healthier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it's a difficult pill to swallow. That's some tough medicine because I've had to let go of a lot of people in my life.
Um,
And I came to realize that a lot of the interactions among some of those people, I think actually contributed to my health illness to begin with.
you
Not
know,
consciously. I don't think they were trying to put a spell on me and make me sick. But I think that the cosmic joke that we're going to come to realize is it like, we are literally becoming the people that we're with, whether like it's beyond just like, oh, the mirror neurons, and you may pick up I think literally like who you are around is like you're literally, it's like you're merging with them in some sort of field of a consciousness. It's like you're merging with them, and you might not be aware of it, but it's happening. And it's so,
100%.
yeah, you know what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
100%.
yeah, so how many people feel drained at the end of their day? you know that's your electrons slipping away. So again, if you work super hard, or like you have a very demanding job, or you're very physical in your job, there's reasons you're going to be tired, right? But if you don't have that, and you're, just every day feeling totally drained, like look at this poor lady in this picture. It's almost like the soul's left her eyes for a moment. She's like, oh, she's so exhausted. If you're totally exhausted, you need to really check in on your electrons and your environment, and the things that we're going to get into, because you could be contributing to your own illness, and this is what we have to take control of and empower ourselves around. So we are energy and matter, right? Humans as energy systems, our biofield, electromagnetic field interacts with electrons in the environment. Just talked about this. Kidney and metabolic health depends on electron flow for detoxification, pH balance, and cellular repair. After my transplants, I realized I was craving electron-rich environments to heal. Like when I was got the kidney, my doctor's like, okay, you're good. Your blood work looks good. You got a new functioning kidney. But then after that, I had this precious, second chance of life. And I was like, whoa, now I am craving these electron rich environments, and anything that's not healthy for me, I have to be really courageous and just walk away from. So that was really important. And I adopted the lifestyle of raising my vibration by aligning with these sources to enhance my vitality. And it was just a whole lifestyle change. It was a whole lifestyle change. It was
Mm.
thoughts, food, diet, friends, what I was watching on TV, the music I was listening to, uh, uh, and really my thoughts. Like, you cannot imagine how much your own thoughts do play into this as well. And obviously nobody's perfect. You can't suppress or repress. There has to be healthy outlets and discharge for pain and struggle and emotion. I totally get it. But the moment you take that struggle and pain and start to find other people who have that same struggle and pain, and start to create these echo chambers and support groups where you're just reiterating the pain, like, you're stuck. That's when you're stuck. And I will be quite frank and honest with you. This is what I see tremendously in the kidney community, is that yes, it's a beautiful experience to go through a kid to get a kidney transplant. All right. If anybody watching has to go through that, it is an incredible experience, and there's love and loss and receiving and giving and death and life, and it's very complex. But very often I see very few people recover to where they get back into their life where that's not all that they talk about. And it's just like, you see that it's beautiful, it's a part of their life. But my kidney journey is not my whole life. When you're in survival mode and you're sick, it's very hard for it not to become you. And this is
Yes.
one of my core messages, is allow it to become you. You have to, you can't fight it. But I'm trying to help people add in that observer mentality as well. So yes, feel it, be in it. It's scary. It's terrifying. You're in the land of the unknown. It's all you, it's like you're walking through life blind. You don't know what's going to happen next, and it's scary. But if you bring on that observer into the mix, it's like you have this, they call it a higher self, observer, big S self energy that can witness you struggling, and it can somehow console you
Mm.
and still say, it's going to be okay. No matter what, I've got your back. Life or death, you're going to be okay. And it's just this beautiful way to go through life, knowing that you have this added sacred source, God, whatever people call it, that is actually with you. You're not alone ever. So feel it, but bring in that observer, so you're not overcome and feel victimized by your experience. And that observer can be created by, meditation, reading spiritual literature, just kind of studying what it is and just educating yourself and practicing. And it doesn't take too long for you to get in touch with this kind of intuitive, subtle voice that's in your head. That's not the sabotage monkey mind voice. It almost eclipses that. It kind of
Yeah,
takes over for that. It takes over for that, which is so freaking beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah. So I do believe that we're dynamic energy systems that can be recharged. So electron depletion and health struggles. Again, I pulled this picture. I was trying to find, I was looking through these scientific pictures. I'm like, oh, I don't know which one to pick, but I just pulled one. But electron loss does contribute to health issues, which you so graciously described a little while ago. So oxidative stress, electron theft damages kidneys and metabolic pathways. This is something I still deal with because I think that my autoimmune disease is related to some upstream detox pathway dysfunction. And, one thing I noticed lately for myself, it's a little personal story, but if I work out too hard, too fast, I really get this kind of delayed onset, like of muscle soreness that's like will come on several days after and last for like way too long, like a week and a half, if like I
Mm.
work out too hard. It's almost like I'm unable to detox appropriately that oxidative stress if I work out too hard and I'm getting a little bit backed up.
Mm.
Until I figure out if there's something else I can do for that, which doesn't come through my traditional medicine docs. I mean, it's yeah, you have to seek out other care. My body, I had to listen to what my body said. This is what I'm saying. So it's not like, well, I was, totally sore for 2 weeks and as soon as I'm better, I'm going to go do it again. Like, no, I'm listening. I had a very hard time. So that means when I work out, I've come to understand that more therapeutic ways of working out work better for me.
Yeah.
Walking works really great for me. 10 minutes of the stair climber works good for me. Yoga works profoundly well for me. And I can do a very hard 1 hour yoga class and sweat and
Yeah.
not have that same reaction that I had when I did that 1 hour hit class.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know
So
exactly what genetic pathways those are. Yep.
yeah, yeah. So, yes. So, inflammation and acidosis from electron deficient diets. You guys talk about that a lot. Fatigue and poor recovery in kidney disease patients. And again, I see this, and part of my issue too is that I'm on medications that cause this. So, for
Mm.
hell, I'm glad I'm not on too many medications, but tacrolimus is an immunosuppression drug that I take for kidney transplant, which I know does cause some of this muscle kind of recovery sorts of issues. And I think it's part of my upstream autoimmune thing that just never was truly addressed, right? So my scientific self experiment was I tracked how electron poor choices worsen my fatigue and recovery, and then I listened, right? So sadly, for a lot of patients in the kidney realm in the West, we don't have access or money to connect with functional medicine doctors or integrative medicine doctors. And if you look it up, it's, it might be like I looked up a girl today who does functional medicine in my area in Houston, and it was $820 for an initial consultation.
Oh yeah.
So
Wow. Puts it out of the scope of most people, doesn't it?
yeah, so it's one of those things where again, it's like if you settle for just what the Western medical model says and you're comfortable with that, that's great if that's all you need. But if you're really interested in really truly being a scientist about your own health and really exploring, I mean, I talk to my nephrologist nowadays about things I'm thinking, and she doesn't even really know how to address me anymore. You know, she's like, what tests do you need done? Like, what do you want done? Like, how can I help? And I feel for so many patients out there that don't have a connection to somebody like you or Kidney Coach and you guys give away so much free information on your YouTube site and on your website. And I'm so grateful because I mean, I've been just power watching your series on peptides with Dr. Robin Rose, because I'm also a patient and nobody else is telling me about this. So you
Yeah,
have to be proactive. And if you got no electrons and you're fatigued and you're drained and you can barely get through your day, you don't have the bandwidth to research.
that's a very good point, actually. You're right, because that does take a whole pile of extra energy, isn't it? Because you have to go down the rabbit hole. So, yeah. Oh, good. I'm so glad you're going to say this is I was going to ask you about this. So great. Electron-rich practices. Yay.
Now,
That looks
these
like
are
it's
just a few.
Thailand.
Yeah. So these are just a few, and please add in any that you want to add. But walking on the earth, hugging a tree. I know that I read that you can get electrons from like your house plant, from a tree. And literally I go up to my house plant and I hug it and I'm like, "Good morning. Can I take a couple of electrons?" Like,
Yeah.
and it's just cute, it's beautiful, and just the fact that, nature honestly is there to support us, and we are just so nature starved, especially here in the West. It's so crazy. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's just free electrons all over the place out there.
Yeah, and lying in green grass, like it's for people that don't know, green reflects infrared. So when you go and lie in or surround yourself by a lot of greenery, and you can't see my house looks like a jungle. I've got houseplants everywhere, but if you
Mhm.
look outside, I'm in a nature field bit, but I will go and lie in the grass because of that infrared transfer and the electron transfer, because green, anything green will reflect all that back to you. So lying in green grass is another big one I'm a big fan of.
I love that. It's so incredible how everything we need to survive and really truly be well and even heal really honestly comes from nature. And you can
It
see,
really does.
sadly, why so many powers that be who profit off of us not being well try to keep us from it. And
Yes,
it's
yeah. Just don't go and roll around in your golf course because that's sprayed in glyphosate. So you want like a natural grassy field versus a football pitch or a baseball pitch or a golf course because they'll have glyphosate in it,
I
unfortunately.
read that. I read that. They said it's good not to live near a golf course because of the spraying and the pesticides. So
Yeah, the increased risk of Parkinson's, I think. Was it like you were 28% more likely? It might have even been higher to get Parkinson's disease if you lived within a certain distance of a golf course because of glyphosate. Yeah, scary.
yeah. So obviously nutrition, leafy greens, berries, healthy fats.
Mhm.
I mean, I adopted a low carb diet. I did do keto a little while, and that was a wonderful experiment for me, because I adopted the vegan lifestyle when I was younger, when I was practicing yoga, and I was trying to do my best with food combining. I didn't eat pizza and fries. I tried to eat healthy, but honestly, I believe that my chronic stress I had when I was younger contributed to damage in my gut lining, and I have leaky gut. And adopting that vegan lifestyle, I mean, my psyche and my mind, like, didn't want to hurt animals and want to adopted this vegan lifestyle. But honestly, I think it contributed massively to me getting much, much worse. And I tend to do best with low carbohydrates and more fats and proteins. If I could eat probably if I could do something that was like healthy meat, like fish, dairy, a little bit of dairy, eggs, um, some meat, and a little bit of vegetables and like fats, I would do best. But I always am a little bit careful of like too much protein with the kidneys. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but then I'm reading. Yeah, I'm not gonna get into that. But
No, I
I
know the latest research says protein doesn't affect kidneys. I read it too. I read the latest article. And interestingly, exactly the same for me. I was vegetarian for a very long time. I have an autoimmune disease, made it worse for sure. I do much better on, and ketogenesis, or being a ketogenesis or a ketogenic diet, which is what I follow too. You don't rely on the ATP transport chain, you go into ketosis. It burns different ketone bodies. For every molecule of fat that you eat, you get 4 units of energy, 4 electrons, versus 1 of a carbohydrate or protein. So if you're energy depleted, eating high fat diet, healthy fats being things like olives, oily fish, olive oil, I'm not talking about deep fried food at all,
Right.
seeds and things like that, will donate more electrons into the transport chain without depleting so much, and it doesn't cause as much oxidative damage. So doing a ketogenic diet can be a really great reset for people. And then, like you say, eating electron-rich food. We know in warmer climates you can do like the fruit fasts that are getting really popular at the moment, and that is because they're very high electron donors because they're natural foods and things like that. So it's just working out what works best for you. But yes, I'm autoimmune, exactly the same as you. I need to eat the same way, and being vegetarian made me 1,000 times worse. I had to get off being a vegetarian, off a vegetarian diet, and that halted my symptom progression straight away.
Yep, I agree. And I think there's something very inextricably linked between the gut microbiome and autoimmune. I mean, and the immune system, there has to be. But yeah, I went very strict keto for 1 year, very strict. Like I think it was under like 20 carbs a day, maybe even less.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And two things happened that were really profound, and I apologize for the first one, but my bowels and my pooping schedule was perfect, like within such a short amount of time. And I've always had this kind of gassy, sometimes bloated, some maybe constipated, maybe IBS, I'm not sure. And within not even a week, everything regulated. And I was like, whoa. And the other thing was, within 2 weeks, I had so much energy. I couldn't drink coffee. I couldn't have any caffeine. I had to just be mindful because I had so much energy. And it was very, again, listening to my body. I was like, my body must like this because look at how healthy, energetic, my sleep is better. I'm not that strict right now. I eat more carbs, but yeah, it was just very clear that, I probably should adopt that again because it was just almost instantaneous for me. So,
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So breathing and mindfulness, we talk about this a lot. I mean, I can't say enough about it. My yoga practice and the constant breathing and the mindfulness and clearing my mind and letting a whole bunch of crap go, and then just letting the things that were really necessary back in my mind. Doing that consistently as a lifestyle changed my life because it's never left me because it's just so ingrained. It's just such a part of who I am. And for me, it blows my mind when I watch some people breathe, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to breathe. So, I mean, again, go into a dialysis clinic where people are severely stressed and unhealthy, and, they're given antihistamines to get through the session or antidepressant. And I'm like, does anyone in here know how to breathe? Like, we're just so far behind, Fiona, in offering
You're right.
patients alternative things. It's almost like there's just a complete split in the reality. It's like, okay, this is what you go to traditional healthcare for. This is the only thing they're going to do. And everything else is your responsibility. I'm sorry to say,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. So music too. I mean, there's certain music that raises your frequency and other music that doesn't. I know that like meditation music, jazz, classical music, the frequency music. I remember I used to do yoga classes with the solfeggio frequencies and just
Yes.
like
Yeah.
all of that stuff. Binaural beats is like, it does something for you.
Yeah.
And,
Play
you know,
plants Mozart. They've done so many studies on that. My plants get a Mozart song a couple of times a day. They love it.
oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, I mean, if this has to be a lifestyle. It
Yeah.
can't just be like, okay, I'm going to listen to some 432 hertz music and maybe that'll cure me. And then I'm going to go back to everything else that's toxic. Like literally electron-rich practices or raising your vibration or whatever you want to call it, moving towards a state of health has to be a complete and utter lifestyle. You got to be all in. You have to
Yeah,
be.
I agree. You had hydration there as well and structured water. Did you want to explain what structured water was? Because I think that's important for people too.
Do you want to explain what structured water is?
Oh, sure. So
That'd be great.
when you can structure water. So Water, when you structure it and you move it towards what we call easy water, so inside your ATP structures and the cells, that sits mostly in your fascia, actually sits in a crystalline form. It doesn't sit as water, so we just think we're water. We're not. That water is actually crystalline, or yeah, we call it exclusion zone easy water. So what you can do to structure your water to make it more easy water, meaning it's going to be more likely to get into the cells and help with what we call structured water, which is this crystalline stuff, is like if you watch a natural spring, which has got there, they go on all those eddies and flows, so you can stir your water and cause a vortex in it. That causes the electrons to stick more, and you need to do it in a glass rather than a mug or anything like that. The electrons are more likely to stick to a glass at the end, and so they restructure themselves. You can put a little pinch of salt in there. I actually do have the Leela quantum block, so I get my water. Mine is double filtration, reverse osmosis, blah, blah. I remineralize it with some salt, spin it. So this is my water ritual in the morning, spin it. I actually then sit it either out in the sun because it'll absorb photons that way, or I've got, I'm pointing right next to my head here is an infrared light. I would sit it in front of that and charge the water that way, and then I sit it inside the quantum block for 5 minutes and drink it. Now, that's a very sophisticated way of doing it. You don't have to do that. You can just get good quality water that's filtered, and you can just stir it and put a little pinch of like really good quality sea salt in there. Is the fast way, and sit it out in the light sun before you drink it. Great, easy ways to do it.
Yep. Yep. I remember my grandmother making tea and always sun tea and sitting out in the sun. And
Oh,
intuitively it's something that I do too. It just, again, the sun. I think once you really connect with the sun and you understand what the sun does to your
yeah.
body. It's funny when I first moved to Houston, because I was in the Northeast where it wasn't as tropical as it is in Houston, Texas. Um, I had a seasonal affective disorder when, it
Mm,
would go dark and cold and snowy for many months out of the year. And it was like a rebirth every year when spring started to come. And, there was not much I could do. And it's one of the reasons I came to Houston, because I knew the weather was going to be different. And within my first year in Houston and really spending time in the sun, and obviously too, they tell me to be mindful of the sun. Well, most professionals, Western healthcare professionals, say like you got to use sunscreen and watch your sun exposure.
mm.
Um, Something happened to me, and I trusted myself. I trust my intuition at this point, and it was like all of a sudden I was having a relationship with the sun. And at first it was like, oh my gosh, I felt like I was absorbing vitamin D that I was deficient of my whole entire time growing up in Pennsylvania. Like that was the basic feeling I had. I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm just absorbing all of this light that I was so desperate for all those winters. And then it just kind of continued to progress. And it's it got a little woo woo, got a little interesting with me. But at some point, I was like, man, I just feel like I can just feel the information coming into my body from the sun. And it was so funny because I would sit outside and I'd talk to my mother or what have you. And she'd be like, oh, what are you doing? You're going to go sit out with your boyfriend? Because I kept saying, like, I was talking about was the sun. And I kept trying to explain to her, I'm like, something is happening to me in this tropical weather that I haven't experienced in my whole life. And yep, that's my story of when I went solar, and I'm not turning back. So, and
I'm
I
with you.
also realized the shenanigans that were fed about be careful of the sun and sunblock and don't cover up, cover up, cover up. And man, I just realized that's definitely not the right way.
No, there's a good reason that all the ancients worshipped the sun and the Aztecs had sun gods.
Yeah, right. Okay, so the science of raising your vibration, how electron gain boost your health. So it, as you said, it enhances mitochondrial function for energy production, and that was definitely felt by me. And I can still feel it. I can still feel when I make some not as great decisions in my day, and but I'm super aware now. I'm like, all right, let me quickly get back on track. I'm conscious of it. I'm aware of it. So I have a gauge of like, this is my typical baseline when I'm good in my electron flow and I'm balanced, I'm feeling like my vibe is good. And this is what happens when I don't take care of
Hmm.
myself. And prior to my, this awakening, I was in the other state more often, not really kind of veiled as to this other way of being. So I'm just so happy that I've able to figure this out. As you said, it reduces oxidative stress, can help to protect kidney and metabolic systems,
Hmm.
supports biofield coherence, which I'm in love with right now, improving overall vitality. And that's just, it couldn't be more true. And even with kidney disease, I have to say this. I told you before, my stories repeat. That's how you know I tell the truth, because I say the same story over and over again. Is the first transplant is like I became veiled and afraid, and I left my yoga training and all of that knowledge kind of behind because I was afraid of what the Western medical doctors were telling me. I was afraid of what was happening to me, and I just surrendered all of my wisdom to the Western medical model and went through the experience that way.
Yeah.
It was tough. Second time, I brought my consciousness and my awareness with me, right? And, you know, one thing that I learned is you can go through kidney failure and get down to a, 10 to 15 GFR. There's like right before dialysis, right? Or even on dialysis. I was on dialysis briefly before my second transplant, not very long, but briefly. But you know what's weird is my vibration never hard. I mean, very, very infrequently went down. I
Yeah.
still had energy. So it was super strange because my doctors are like, "What are you coming in here? Like, who are you?" Like, first time
Hmm.
I went in looking like I was gonna die, and second time with my kidney failure, I was looking like this, and I was acting like this, and I had this amount of energy, and they were like, you don't look like our normal kidney patient." Now, some patients do. I've come to meet other patients who seem to have this connection, this source connection, where Liddy Lawson is one of those people who
Oh,
is
isn't she gorgeous?
health.
Yeah.
She's gorgeous. She's vibrant. She has a lot of support. She has
Hmm.
resources. She has a very strong faith.
Very
She's
strong faith. That played a big role for her, I think, actually.
she's tapped in to
Yeah,
something
she
beyond
really is.
her.
Hmm.
And that's what it takes, is that you can actually go through something like this and oddly maintain a degree of health. It doesn't have to totally overcome you.
Hmm.
um, which is strange and unusual, I think, especially for traditional Western providers when they come across these people, because they're
Yeah.
gonna they're gonna think we're like the unicorn. But really, the truth is this is actually the patient of the future.
I totally agree. And it's interesting, it comes back to a point that you and I have made a lot of times before, and it's where I'm at now, is that even though we have a dis-ease, be it autoimmune disease, you can still function. Like I feel healthier now than I have in a really long time, but I have an autoimmune disease. I have difficulty walking, and I've actually finally got on. I was in chronic pain. I'm on top of that now. But yeah, isn't it interesting? And people would say, "Oh, you." I was just at the post office on the way home from the gym, and someone said, "Oh, what have you done to your leg?" And I'm like, "It's a spinal cord injury, you know." And I don't bother with the autoimmune disease because people get mortified by asking me about stuff. But I'm like, spinal cord injury. She's like, "Oh, when will you recover?" I'm like, "Permanent." But I think it's people get so confused because you look healthy and you're vibrant, and you're still smiling, and So I think you can have a disease, to your point, and still be biophoton, energetically, electron healthy. And
You
yeah,
can.
yes, and I think that's the thing that I've had to wrestle with, that maybe I actually am healthy, and there's some expression going on in my body that, like you said right at the beginning of this, that is beyond what we can comprehend with our mind, and that's okay.
Exactly. Yeah, it's brilliant, actually. It's exquisite. I don't know exactly what's going on in that case, because you'd think one would, you know, outride the other, but I've experienced that, and I've told you this story before, that when I did all of that inner healing work and this recalibration of my life and lifestyle and really adopted this raise your vibration lifestyle. And when I went through the second transplant, I told you this. I sat up immediately in the ICU after my transplant and I crossed my legs and I said, I'm healed. I'm ready to go. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, honey, lay down. It's the drugs. And I'm like, no, I'm like, I'm healed. And
Yeah.
something inside me had this comfort in knowing this body, this flesh may be temporary, but I'm not temporary. And I just, this work has helped me to understand that um, if I'm locked into the mindset of my consciousness continues after this body sheds, like that was the real awakening for me. And that's when my life became peaceful, very peaceful. And
Yeah.
it was like, oh, we never die. Oh, okay. Oh, we physically die, but like, there's nothing to be afraid of, my dear. Like, it just
Yeah.
continues. And with that mindset, it's incredible what the body and the mind and the energy system can do. I've seen it. I've seen it, and I've experienced this firsthand. And I just know. I just know that yes, I have this anomaly that I face, and sometimes it freaks me out. But when I'm in my typical mindset of like, it's all okay, no matter what's playing out, you're safe, you're supported, you're never done. That's the real joke of all this. And if I
Yeah.
just stay in that mindset, it's so much better for me. Everything is better.
Totally agree. And then and this is a discussion for another time, so I'll say it very quickly, but it's when you realize that, then you realize the whole working on yourself and your self evolution is the game.
Exactly. Yes. That's what I realized when I sat up and I said I'm healed is the entire time after my first transplant, I was going through a massive existential crisis and spiritual awakening. And I remember praying, and because I was experiencing, I don't even say I was depressed. I'm like, I was experiencing depression because I had my observer. My observer's like, oh, you're really down. Like, what's going on here? Let's talk about this. And yeah, I had a massive spiritual awakening. And I was talking about my praying to God about the disease and what happened to me and this and that. He's like, oh, darling, nothing happened to you. This is just what you needed for your spiritual awakening. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. I
Yeah. And
get it.
herein lies why we potentially get dis-ease. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. So, but that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. We're trying to fight disease very
Yeah.
actively in a different way. So, yeah. So, yeah. So my experiments showed me how my electron flow mirrors the quantum principles of connection. So I think of my body like a circuit. Electrons keep the lights on. Raising your
Mm.
vibration is like tuning a radio to a clear, healing frequency. That's how it feels for me, right?
Yeah.
So it's really important that you create a healing environment. No excuses. There's just no excuses, right? You have to minimize your EMF exposure if possible. Spend time in nature to connect with Earth's electrons. Practice gratitude and mindfulness no matter what. You got a disease, say thank you. What is this here to wake me up from something? Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't see it. You had to hit me over the head with a 2x4 with a disease to like wake me up. And I'll tell you, like, I don't just say this to be coy or smarty pants. This is exactly what I needed to get me to this realization, this self realization I'm in. I couldn't have got it any other way,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't change it, and I can't change it, and I may have to go through it again, and I still wouldn't change it because this is the gift that woke me up, you know. So you got to build a community with positive energy, period.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in communities that are rehashing the same old story you can feel it when you're tapped into energy. I can feel it in a nanosecond. I'm like, nope, I gotta go. I'm sorry, guys. Like,
Yeah.
I will just exit stage left, excuse myself. I do not sit in environments where that you can just feel the resonance. I'm like, nope, this is not for me. This is not good for me to be here.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
know,
agree.
I used to visualize a lot. That really helped me when I was sick. I would just visualize a healthy person. I think I told you this story before, but I used to work part-time as a personal caregiver for a blind and paralyzed woman in New York City. And did I tell you this story?
You've mentioned it once, but I don't remember the story, so tell me again.
The story really quick was she was a very inspirational lady. She lived by herself. She was 69 years old, blind and paralyzed, lived by herself. And she would
Wow.
have all of her outfits organized, and she'd be all dressed up. She knew how to put on her makeup and take care of herself fully based off of her recovery and therapy she did. And after she became paralyzed. But long story short, one day I had a dream about her, and I would have to transport her in and out of her wheelchair into the car. We'd go shopping, into her doctor's appointments and things like that. And one day I said, Barbara, I had a dream about you last night. I said, you knocked on my door and you were ready to go out for the day. She was ready for me to pick her up. And I said, I opened the door and you were standing there, and you weren't blind or you weren't paralyzed. And she goes, oh yeah, of course. That's my real self.
Oh, I love that. I got goosebumps everywhere.
And I just felt it. I was like, I know she's telling the truth.
Yeah, I love
It's
that.
crazy. So, yeah. So, nature, mindfulness are super helpful for me. Surrounding myself with positive people. I cannot express that enough. I cannot express that enough. Okay. Inspired action for our audience is to create a space where your body can recharge and not deplete. I encourage everybody, especially if you have a busy household, create a little sacred space for ritual for yourself where you can just sit down with a plant, with a candle, with a journal, with some music, and just sit and breathe with yourself and recharge. So, yeah. So, now you got to do what's best for yourself. You have to have empowerment through awareness. This is the deal. The key takeaway is to understand electron dynamics and how it empowers conscious health choices. Again, we don't live in the world anymore where you can just go into the Western medical model and become self-aware with your illness. You have to do the work. You have to do the work. You have to truly be participatory now. We have to avoid unconscious depletion, recognize daily habits that drain your energy. Does this drain me? I used to say to people who were totally new to this, I used to say, all right, listen, this is what I want you to do. Super simple. Go through your day, and in your daily experiences, ask yourself, does this feel good or does this feel bad? I'm like, if it feels bad, don't do it.
Yeah,
Like, that is the most
exactly.
basic way to start realizing how powerful energy is around you and how powerfully you pick it up, whether you're
Yeah.
picking it up or not, you're picking it up. So, yeah, embrace electron-rich practices to support your metabolic health, kidneys, all of your organs. Learning about electrons helped me to take control of my healing journey, and having the power to shift your energy and health by working with this. I think it's amazing. It's amazing. And a lot of it's free. Some of it's not, but a lot of it is just getting outside under the sun, in nature, away from tech, basic things people can do, eat healthy. And for those with kidney challenges, electron awareness, I think, can be a real game changer.
Oh, I agree.
I do. So raise your vibration today. This is my old yoga studio. I used to have this sign out front. Keep shining, beautiful one. The world could really use your light.
Oh, yeah.
And the power of light, I started getting into, Walter Russell, The Secret of Light is an amazing book. All the energy stuff, Nikola Tesla, Walter Russell, and I just was like, I fell in love with this because I was like, oh my God, electric.
Yep.
Yeah, it's right over there. You probably can't see it.
Oh,
But
I love it. Yeah, that's a big important book for people that want to start understanding the base, like from a full-on science philosophy too. So,
yeah. So here's the deal. We're light, we're energy inside this matter. You got to take care of your matter, your meat suit, right? I tell my niece, like, your meat suit. I always try to comfort her. I say, honey, one day I'm going to drop this meat suit, but I'm still going to be here. We're still going to be able to talk. But
yeah,
that's the important thing. You got to take care of your meat suit, but it is not all about your meat suit.
no.
Don't become obsessed with your looks and having a perfect body and everything about your looks, because all of that's going to go bye-bye. Like, work on your soul, work on your light, work on your love, work on your gratitude, work on your relationships, your connection, your consciousness, your things that you can take with you, you know? You don't want to leave this body and have to figure it all out again. You want to start working on your soul before 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 you get to the afterlife.
Exactly.
I don't want to go to hell. I've been there already. Don't like it. Go back. So, action steps. Take one electron-rich practice this week. Just do one thing. If people aren't doing it, do the earthing, eat healthy, pray, gratitude journal, helping others, help yourself, take a rest, slow down, whatever you need to do. And join a like-minded community, like Kidney Coach, right? Reflect daily. How am I recharging my electrons? As a transplant thriver, I know you can transform your health by raising your vibration.
Yeah.
That's it.
Love it. I think there's such important stuff there. And you're right. A lot of that stuff is just basic practices that should be incorporated as part of everything else that you need to do if you're taking if you're taking your anti-rejection medication, or, if you've got high blood pressure that's driving your kidney disease, you do that. But then you also have all these other practices, and the whole there is a big movement behind the sun and ATP optimization, mitochondrial health. The science has caught up with that. What we're talking about now, there's some hard science behind that. So it's not woo-woo, it's just you can't monetize it and pharma can't make money off it. So, we don't have as much research going into that because research costs a lot of money and no one can profit off it. You can't profit off lying in green grass, right? So I think when people are like, well, we need hardcore studies, it's like, well, go and practice it. Do it every day for 2 weeks and see how you feel. Be your own experiment. Be your N of one.
I forget the correct terminology, but focusing on actual tangible results over maybe what specific science is saying. Like if somebody's feeling better and doing better, then that's a good sign. And I hate to even think that we have evil in this world, but we do. And you got to be real diligent now to dodge some of the narratives that are coming at us that are telling us to stay away from anything that's natural. I'm seeing some of the most ridiculous headlines, like, in your soul what's natural. Nature,
100%.
the sun, healthy food, growing food, connection, love, relationship. Like, it's not hard to know what's natural and to know that people are trying to block some of this natural stuff. Sadly, I think it's for their profit, and you got to be aware if you're not a little bit privy to that, and you're falling for the rhetoric of the media all the time. You might want to do a little research to find out what's going on. But before I leave you today, I have to show you this. I have a friend who bought me this on eBay. Can you see this?
Oh, it's a kidney. I love that.
It is a silver kidney purse.
That is so cool. Purse. Okay, that is just too cool for school. Okay, that's so cool.
So I'm gonna get a little chain to go around it, and then I thought, but literally, he's like, "Oh my gosh, I was on eBay and I saw a kidney purse. I had to get it."
I love that. That's so
cool. Yes. So I think that's it today. But I can't tell you how this has all helped me, how being connected with you helped me, all of your resources. I'm so grateful that you guys are out there for the kidney community. And I just wish everybody could find you, because I think it would take a lot of suffering and start to turn it in the opposite direction. So,
well, hope is the big thing. When Duncan and I wrote the business manifesto, it was like, what are we actually? And we're like, over anything else, it wasn't about supplements or anything. It was about empowerment. Empowerment is the big word. Empowerment and education will hopefully drive hope for people, so people can self-advocate and be their own healers. That was the whole purpose of us setting up Kidney Coach. So we hope we do that. I'm glad to hear that that's been that for you. And we are grateful that you've joined the team and you are part of that. And if people don't know, you can do one-on-one coaching with Stephanie. You can find her by heading to www.kidneycoach.com and then go into, I think it's resources. You'll see the coaching there, so you'll find her there. She's such a wonderful advocate for people going through difficult times and really trying to figure out how to step into this, how to navigate and make the best of the Western medical world that can often feel really in opposition to everything that we just said. So Stephanie is your resource for that, so please use her. That's why she is there and an integral part of the team. So we are very grateful that you have churned your, what could be said as a tough journey to hell and back into a blessing for other people as well. So thank you for being you and shining your bright light. We are very grateful to have you as part of our team. So I will put in all of Stephanie's details below. Make sure you head to www.kidneycoach.com. You'll also find us on Facebook. We post there every day. Same on Instagram. And if you want to be part of the community, we have the mastery course. I think it's got 100 hours of information in there, and then we have a private Facebook group that I run a Facebook Live every month, and Stephanie's there, and we often, it's open Q&As. You can come and join and do all of that sort of stuff. So that's our community that we've got going on in the background there, with a lot of research and education as well. All right, I know you've got to run on to something else. I'm going to release you back to the wide world, but for everybody watching, thank you for being part of our community. Leave your comments in the comment section and we will endeavour to get back to them. And thank you for being here and being you. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.